The level of evil going on in South America has now reached breathtaking proportions. What you are looking at here is a picture, side by side, of a valley in Colombia that, while it's widely being reported that this was simply an accident, that this was something that was a force of nature that caused a problem, what's happened here is a coordinated effort to get rid of the evidence that would implicate the U.S. and Colombia in thousands and thousands of murders. This has been going on down there for a long time now. The story is this: the Hidroituango, I'm going to try to say this right, Hidroituango Dam allegedly flooded, the project flooded by accident. What they're saying here is that they'd cleared a bunch of brush and there was a giant landslide and it caused a giant backup in water, and they didn't realize how much water, and then all of a sudden when they released it, it went downstream and washed away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes and displaced thousands and thousands of people. And of course, you're not hearing about this on the mainstream media at all. You'd have to be paying attention to what's going on down there to understand this. Now, what this is really about is washing away the bodies that were buried in this valley. This was one of the big dumping grounds for the right-wing, U.S.-backed, U.S.-financed death squad paramilitaries that went down there and have been down there doing the bidding of big oil and big projects like this. In fact, 5 or 6 people that have been protesting this project, this dam project, have magically just disappeared. And Colombia Reports has been trying to sound the alarm about this. But nobody seems to be interested in this model community, Colombia, unlike its neighbor next door, of course, which we know is all the root of all evil in the world. Ongoing opposition to the project by the NGO has resulted in the murder of 5 members of the organization in the Antioquia department, with leaders claiming that up to 60 more of its members have received death threats. This is what happens down there when you try to speak up, when you try to talk about what's going on. You're killed. You are disappeared. And I've detailed this in 2 previous videos in the last week talking about this issue. You see, this is from over a week ago when they were talking about how this dam was going to flood this area when they eventually built it, and the people were like, no, wait a minute, no, you're not going to do this, because we know the bodies are buried there, and they have been finally getting these people to talk. This guy here, the U.S., this guy literally and figuratively knew where the bodies were buried. So the U.S., this guy was already doing 10 years in prison in Colombia, and the U.S. pulled him out because he was ready to talk. He was ready to name names. He was ready to point fingers. He was ready to say, this guy did this guy did that, this U.S. money was here, this U.S. money was there. And so they had to extradite him. And they are getting rid of the evidence, literally, by using chop houses. These people that disappear, they take them to Chaco, they slice them into little bits, and they toss them in the ocean. This is the model community. This is the model that the U.S. would like the Venezuelans to follow. Colombia, U.S. friendly, recipient of $500 million a year. This is the truth you're not being told. I want you to look at this picture again. This is the level of evil these people are capable of. This is what they will do to hide their dirty deeds. They will flood entire valleys, destroy entire communities to wash away their evidence. And I want to read something for you here, and I think this will give you a window and the insight into the thinking of this psychopath Santos. This is the guy that won the Nobel Peace Prize for the landmark historic deal with the FARC to get them to lay down their arms while completely ignoring the right-wing U.S.-backed U.S.-financed paramilitaries. I want you to listen to a quote and understand the mindset it would take for someone to say this. With a regime change, which will come, and will come very soon, the Venezuelan economy, with a bit of good governance, will take off very fast. And the opportunity for Colombia is huge. The opportunity for Colombia is huge. So let me get this straight. When a neighboring country, a neighboring sovereign nation, has its leader overthrown, has its wealth confiscated by large multinational big oil corporations, and the international community comes in and takes over and starts rearranging things against the will of its people, the opportunity for the neighboring country is huge. The opportunity for Colombia is huge. This is a quote. This is what he said in Hungary last Friday. Yeah, Santos did not say how exactly he hopes this change occurs. Really? Yeah, I'll bet he didn't. I'll bet because he already knows how it's going to go down. This is the previous president, Uribe. The president they are investigating for murder. This is the guy who won the Medal of Freedom from this country. This president in Colombia just got the Nobel Peace Prize. They kill people down there. They disappear people down there. They create death squads down there. And you're bitching, and I don't mean you audience-wise, I mean the world is bitching and pissing and crying and moaning and whining about Maduro? They're calling him evil? Let me see if I can put this in perspective for you. All right. Over here, in this country, through all of the 90s and all of the 2000s, did you ever hear anyone talking about deposing Chavez or deposing the leaders before him? When there was the giant drug war that the entire world knew about going on in Colombia between the FARC and these right-wing paramilitaries, and thousands of refugees were fleeing from Colombia into Venezuela, overtaxing its system, taking advantage of its free health care, taking advantage of its discount food programs. When Venezuela was the recipient of this huge wave of humanity coming out of Colombia and taking care of those people, using its so evil socialist government to take care of the housing, take care of the medical care, take care of feeding all of these Colombian refugees for 10, 15, 20 years. Did you ever hear anybody complaining and bitching and moaning and whining about the leadership in Venezuela? Did the U.S. ever offer to send Venezuela $500 million a year to help them offset the costs of the drug war that they were creating by the $500 million they're sending over here? No, you didn't. You never once heard the U.S. say, you know what, Venezuela's doing this wonderful thing, taking care of all of these millions and millions of people that have come here over the last 20 years. Maybe we should reach out. Maybe we should help them. Maybe we should have a different a different policy in Colombia? You didn't hear that, did you? But just ever so coincidentally, the same year, 2015, when the U.S. lets its ban on oil exporting for profit expire, strangely enough, what was the number 3 or number 4 oil exporter in the world, their economy just magically collapses. Their ability to export oil just goes away. Just ever so coincidentally, after decades and decades of this country taking care of this country. This country absorbing the refugees that were fleeing war-torn Colombia. And now, the Colombians have destroyed the evidence. It's sick what's going on, and they won't report it. They won't tell you the truth. Like, share, subscribe.